This fucking guy.
Uh-oh. What fucking guy?
It's AJ.
Oh. Yeah, that fucking guy.
Fucking guy. It's yeah. He's a pest.
Oh, is he? What's he pestering you about? If
Oh,
it's not
nothing. He just
personal.
it's nothing. It's nothing. It's he's just like he's got this weird sixth sense. He always texts me on Wednesdays or like Thursdays or like I'm trying to crunch for the pod and it's like doesn't text me all week, but it's like he knows. It's like he's vicariously trying to exist among the RDR greatness.
Well, he needs to come in on an episode. It'd be fun.
Yeah, I think we'll get him
Nice.
eventually. So
Um,
this would have been a cool week. Fucking Vikings, Packers, dude.
it would have been a good week. Yeah,
Pussy.
it's a big game.
I'll
Uh,
punch him in the dick the next time I see him.
okay, sounds good. That makes sense
Don't
to
worry
me.
about
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we're on a quest for Dynasty Domination. How's it going over there, Daniel?
Oh, it's going well.
Good,
Can't complain, just living life. Feel
good.
like we're getting in the
Heating up.
groove.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How
Almost.
about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Almost a quarter of the way through the season. I know the math doesn't exactly work anymore now that we have 17 games or 18 weeks, but still, man, that week four, I think you really start to learn some stuff after week four. So
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. It's been a good year, and yeah, I'm good to go. Starting school up soon, which, by the way, for viewers of the YouTube show, some of these videos might be coming out a little naked. I'm sorry about that. I don't have as much time anymore. And those videos, even though they are simple, they do take quite a long time. So if you see that, I'm sorry. Once I'm out of school, we can get heated back up on these videos a little bit more. But all of that aside, I'm excited for this week because we're bringing back a long-standing episode. We are breaking it into a segment, but if you've been with us from the beginning, you will know about the running back longevity episode that we do at least once a year, where we break down the age and everything that goes along with that of the running back class. Because obviously they're always the ones that have the shortest careers and have the most injuries and things, and so we like to look at that. So we're going to bring you a shortened segment version of that that will be running throughout the year, as well as a few other segments today. I'm really liking this this changing up of the segments each week. It's making it fresh for us, and I'm pumped about it.
Me too, man. Yeah, it's like a new adventure every week, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I
exactly.
so I think it's fun. I don't know exactly what my wife is doing upstairs, guys,
Oh,
but hopefully it's not bleeding through the mic
I was gonna say
in
I
here.
couldn't hear anything, so I
All
think we're
right, we'll
good.
scratch that.
But all this talk about new, let's throw it in the trash for just a second or put it on pause because we're going to hit you with the rookie roundup, which we're going to do every week. And last week I talked for far too long, so we're going to tighten it up. The injury and inactive section, no new names, which is good. And the really only note is that Jonathan Brooks is looking like he might be taking those final steps to playing. So that's really exciting. It'll be cool to see him. But that's going to be it for the injury segment here. So we have the clear backups tier up next. And this week, I got a little more hardcore. You had to earn your way into promising
Ooh.
usage and possible studs, which means some guys did get knocked back into the clear backup category. So we're going to hit you with the names here. We got Tyrone Tracy, Jermaine Burton, Malachi Corley, Ben Sennett, Michael Penix Jr., Drake May, who did see a little bit of play at the end of the
Mhm.
Patriots Jets game. Jalen Wright, Troy Franklin, Javon Baker, and Sion Vakai are all guys that were there that last week. And then new names that are added into the clear backups role. Trey Benson, 3% snap share this week. Not going to do it. Jalen
Rough.
McMillan, decent snap share, but he's got 6 targets through 3 weeks. We know who the two big dogs on that offense are. He may, if somebody goes down, McMillan is a good shout. He's been playing a lot, but as of now,
Good player.
he's a good player, but we know where his pecking order is. Honestly, ditto for the exact same for Jalen Polk. Like he is on the field a decent amount, but he's not getting the amount of targets to make him in a promising usage category, in my opinion. Adonai Mitchell, 9 targets with downs
Oof.
out, with downs in, 13% snap share, and 1 target. Not going to do it. He very clearly got knocked off the pecking order once Josh Downs came back. So I'm throwing him in the clear backups as well. We also have Jatevion Sanders, whose snap share dropped to 35%, and he only had 1 target, which also not going to do it. And Ray Davis scored his first NFL touchdown, which is awesome,
Yeah.
but it was in a blowout, and he only had 19% snap share. So I'm going to go ahead and say that he's the clear backup in Buffalo as well. So those are your clear backups. A little tighter tighter knit tier for you. So we're moving into the promising usage category now. And I'm going to start off with Bucky Irving, who's getting a little bit of hype about seeing an increased workload from his 32% snap share. And he has been far more efficient on the ground than Rashad White. Rashad White is sitting at 2 yards per carry, while Bucky Irving is sitting at 6 yards per carry. So we could really see Bucky end up being the main, at least runner in that offense. I don't think Rashad White's going to go away, but I do think it may become a more 50-50 split at least this year. Um, Next up, we saw Carson Steele take the starting job with Isaiah Pacheco down. 62% snap share, 17 attempts, 4 yards per carry, which is pretty good. It was
Yeah.
nice to see him as the primary guy. I'm not really sure what his ceiling is as that primary guy. And then you got Hunt, Kareem Hunt got activated off the practice squad. And so that's going to be an interesting little wrinkle here as to far how that goes. And then we don't know when Pacheco is going to come back either. So there's a chance that this Kansas City running back room gets fairly muddied. But right now, Steele looks like the guy that's at least going to get the most work. Um, Braylon Allen got 10 points this week, did not have 2 touchdowns, so that kind of knocked him on the points, but he did have 11 attempts and 3 targets,
Yeah.
which is pretty impressive for Brees Hall's backup. So it does look like he has earned his workload there. It'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward. And they do pair a lot better um, with each other than I would have thought with the kind of thunder and almost lightning to Brees Hall. And yeah, Braylon Allen, he said it, he tweeted it out. Somebody said something about like why Braylon Allen slipped in the drafts, and he said because people wanted to watch me work out in underwear instead of play football. Can't argue with the kid. You can't do it because that was where I went down on him. It was kind of because of the off-season stuff, and he's proven me wrong. He's a player, so. Moving on, Luke McCaffrey stays in promising usage just barely. 34% snap share, 3 targets, 3 receptions for 44 yards, which is a decent little day on an offense that doesn't throw the ball a ton. So we could see him kind of getting worked in. Keon Coleman caught a touchdown this week, but he only had 1 catch, but he was on the field for 31% of the snaps. We were all interested to see how that Rams wide receiver room was going to shake out, and Jordan
Right.
Whitington got on the field a little bit, 38% of the snaps, 3 targets, 28 yards. So I'm liking that. Andy Dalton added a little juice to Xavier Legette, who played almost 60 snaps, 2 catches for 42 yards. So still not amazing there, but if that offense starts to heat up and he's on the field for 60% of the time, we could see a decent amount of work out of Legette here.
Yeah. Thielen's gonna miss some time.
Yeah, Thielen's gonna miss some time too. So yeah, there's a chance that a door opens here for Legette for sure. Deontay Johnson does seem like the primary guy there. He finally had the
For
week
sure.
that we wanted him, where we're expecting him to maybe have. So that was good. Um, I have 2 names who I pulled away from the possible studs category for now at wide
Uh-oh.
receiver. I took Lad McConkey down.
Oh,
7
big
points.
tears.
Yeah, big tears. 7 points, 72% snaps, which is really good. 6 targets, 3 catches, 44 yards. It's good and he's looking good, but it's just that the Jim Harbaugh offense like kind of is doing exactly what we thought. Quentin Johnston's all of a sudden catching a touchdown every week. So it just
Surprise.
seems like maybe it's gonna take a little more time for this to kind of work out the way I think it was. Um, Ditto, kind of a similar sentiment with Xavier Worthy. I'm moving him down into promising usage. Only 50% of the snaps, 4 targets, 2 catches, 17 yards. That's 2 weeks back to back where he's been fairly quiet. I still think he has obviously the boom upside potential, but I just think as of now, I don't know that you can rely on him as like an every week starter. I don't know that he'll ever be a guy that you can because that's
Wow.
just seems like his skill set to me. That sometimes teams are going to take him away, sometimes he's going to blow up a 60-yard touchdown. But that's just where I'm at right now. I moved him down into this category. Theo Johnson, starting off our first tight end, 81% snaps. He's only got 3 targets and 1 catch, though. But I mean, 81% cannot be ignored. And then Eric All, still hanging in the promising usage category, 34% snap share, 4 targets, though, was the big thing to me. 4 receptions, only 22 yards. But we needed some more tight end love, so I kept him here as well. So those are your promising usage rookies. So let's move on to some possible studs now. And eventually, maybe even after week 4, some of these guys are not going to be possible studs anymore because we are having some
Oh,
excellent games from these guys,
straight up
including
studs.
Rome Odunze, who moved
Hey,
up from the promising usage category into the possible studs. 23 points this week, 99% snap share with Keenan Allen out. 11 targets, 6 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. That is what we wanted to see out of him and Caleb Williams. So it's exciting to see that starting to heat up, and he looked really good on the field after a couple rough weeks in week 1 and 2. So it was good to see. I'm excited about it. Brian Thomas Jr. stays in the possible studs category. Trevor Lawrence might be ass.
uh,
But
judging by the smell,
yeah. Um, 73% snaps for Brian Thomas Jr., 9 targets, only caught 5 passes for 48 yards, but I think that is a clear indicator of like his status in that offense. Um, Malik Neighbors decided to pop off again, and with 85% of the snap share, 12 targets, 8 catches, 78 yards, and 2 beautiful touchdowns. The guy can't be
what are we
stopped.
doing here? Yeah,
He is gonna make Daniel Jones a viable fantasy quarterback, and it's not anything that Daniel Jones is doing. He is just ridiculous and just makes that offense go, and I'm excited to see it. Marvin Harrison Jr., 17 points, 88% snap share, 11 targets, which is higher. That was a complaint I had about his last game was that, yeah, it was obviously incredible, but he didn't have that crazy amount of targets. So 11 is good to see here. Only 5 catches, but he did catch a touchdown, 64 yards. So still looking like the guy in the Arizona offense, but just slightly quieter than Malik Neighbors this week. And then Brock Bowers had a pretty quiet week. Only 7 points, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 41 yards, but 66% snap share. And we've seen what he's done the previous 2 weeks. And somehow the Panthers beat the Raiders and made them look off. So
dude. Yeah, no comments.
made no sense to me, but I'm leaving Brock Bowers in the possible studs, which leaves us just with the QB review. I mentioned a couple names earlier, so we don't have to go over them. But we can get into Caleb Williams, like I talked about with Rome. He finally kind of looked a little better this week. 52 passes, though, is what it took him to get 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also, his offense was given the ball repeatedly over and over again by the Colts. And they still ended up losing and still, it felt clunky still. Like they obviously amassed a bunch of yards and a bunch of stats here, but it just still felt a little off, a little clunky. But I'm interested to see this get ironed out and see if they can kind of manage it. Following that by Bo Nix. Bo Nix looked okay for once. 25 of 36, no touchdowns yet, but he did have a rushing touchdown, 9 attempts, 47 yards. I don't know how they beat Tampa Bay. It doesn't really make sense to me either, that one.
Smacked him around.
But he looked confident. He looked comfortable there, which is something that you could not say the first 2 weeks. So maybe we can see him start to heat up a little bit more. I don't know that I still buy it, but we'll see. But they're just precursors to who is the talk of the rookie quarterback class, and that is Jaden Daniels, who we were both very high on coming out. 28 points this week, 21 of 23 passing for
Hmm.
254 yards, 2 touchdowns, 12 attempts on the ground, 39 yards and a touchdown. He has not played in a game yet where he hasn't rushed the ball at least double digits. And now he's starting to work in that passing game, 2 touchdowns this week. We could be looking at rookie of the year. It's early, but it's looking like the race might be Daniels versus Neighbors right now.
Yeah, as well it should be. Come on now. Um, Dang, it's good. And he got my boy Terry involved
Yeah,
for
he did.
100 yards. Made me
Scary
happy.
Terry.
I needed to see that going on. It was a fun kind of week, man. I like that Monday night doubleheader, huh?
Yeah, it was neat.
How'd
Two
you,
blowouts though.
well, nifty, but everyone on the Bills scored. I'm glad Ray Davis and Keon Coleman could round up some rookie touchdowns for
Yeah,
us, man.
that was fun.
Hell yeah.
Well, speaking of rounding up, that is your rookie roundup for the week. So exciting stuff there. But Daniel, what are we heading to next?
Well, as we do, we are going to just roll right into the top 12. And I have been doing this each week. We do a different position each week. And this week we are on to the wide receivers. And it's pretty exciting for me, I guess, as someone who's interested in looking at numbers. I look at a lot of stats, but this year is kicking off with quite a bit of variety in the top 12 wide receiver
Mm,
category. And we'll get into the season average, but just breaking it down week by week, there's 36 available spots, through week 3 in the top 12. And we've seen 32 different wide receivers doing it,
hmm,
that's insane to me,
pretty
that
fun.
only 4 have repeated at all.
Hmm.
And no one's done it all 3 weeks, which I tracked that pretty heavily last year. And some guys had the first 6 or so weeks. Obviously, you lose Tua and Tyreek goes out and things like that. But I don't know. It's kind of wild just to look at this list. But the average points per so far have been 25.3 points.
Wolf.
Or yeah, so that's it's kind of crazy.
Hmm.
And most of them, 26 of them are between 21 and 29 points. So it is kind of dense right there. We've had some pretty major games, Jawan Jennings type games, but then there's been some
Jesus.
sluggish games as well. Um, but the good news is the average score per week is climbing. Week 1, it was 24 and a half. Week 2, we're at 25.3 and then 26.3.
Hell yeah.
Uh, yeah, so we're getting there, man. 1 point at a time. And just to give a little preview, I know we're doing running back longevity this week, so I had to throw out the average age of these guys so
Hmm.
far is 26.1,
Oh
and
wow.
that's counting the guys that have been in twice. Count their age both times, give them the full credit for being that age.
That's
And
fair.
I keep kind of dipping in and dipping out on this guys. So I'll just tell you the 4 guys that have done it twice. We've got DK Metcalf, who was number 2 in week 2, and then number 12 in week 3. Malik Neighbors. I mean, obviously, we're talking a lot about him.
Hmm.
Yeah, week 2 he was number 2, and week 3 he was number 4. Chris Godwin has week 1 number 8, week 2 number 6, and then you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was week 2 number 10, week 3 number 11. And that's really interesting when you talk about St. Brown being twice in the top 12, because on the season average he is not in the top 12,
Huh.
which I found to be pretty interesting.
Hmm.
But the part that really turned up the heat on blowing my mind was the wide receiver 8 on the year has not had a single top 12 week,
Huh.
and Devonta Smith. So it's kind of wild.
Pretty wild.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. We can look at the top 12 guys on the year and just kind of get initial reactions and see how we feel about it.
Okay.
But yeah, number 1 is Malik Neighbors. So
Woo.
congrats to him. I mean, holy smokes, this is just how it's going to be. Um, he is, as advertised, just a badass with no one else in town up there in New York. So good on him. Rasheed Rice coming in at number 2.
Hmm.
Really just getting targeted like a crazy person. Chris Godwin at 3. Juwan Jennings just takes 1 week to vault up to 4th. So
Well, when you
big
score
on him,
47 points.
dude. What are we doing here? Yeah. Anyway, Justin Jefferson is at 5.
Hmm.
Nico 6. DK's 7. Mentioned Devonta Smith at 8. Hey, your boy Jaden Reed
Jaden
making it
Reed.
work with Malik Willis
Hmm.
up there at number 9. And then Jamar Chase is at 10. He had a big week. He was a wide receiver 2 last week with that 30 points. He finally shown some life up there. Couldn't get a dub, but whatever they want to do. And then Stephon Diggs, let's do it, man. He's at number 11. So that gives you 2 Texans on this list. And then rounding it out with another rookie. So bookends on the rookies. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 12. And I would be crazy not to just mention Amon-Ra is 13th. So,
Yeah, he'll
you
be up
know,
there.
yeah, the 2 top 12s will get him eventually. But
Yeah, absolutely they will. It's surprising that he's not already up there, but it was a pretty quiet week 1 for him.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, this list is crazy to me. First of all, our redraft episode, I have 4 of these guys on my team, and
Mhm.
they're all in the top 6. So I'm feeling real good about that. And then Jaden Reed, man, I don't want to be a homer or blowing smoke or anything, but he has been the only guy in the receiving game that still has a consistent workload with Malik Willis. And
Yeah.
I think when Jordan Love comes back, I really do think Jaden Reed's going to end as the wide receiver 1 for the Packers. He has such a role to play there, and they want him on the field constantly. And I just think he looks incredible. His contact balance is so good every week. Like it seems like he gets an extra couple of yards every time he gets hit. I don't know, man. I think he's gonna have a big year. And then it's nice to see Jamar Chase heating up. And then I done told everybody that Nico Collins was the wide receiver 1 in Houston.
Okay. Stephon is still in the top 12,
Yeah, he's
everybody.
having a good year. But
Good first 1/6 of the season. But man, I got it. I have to get into the volume stuff
yeah.
because
Mhm.
I kind of broke this down, because you think like opportunity is the way to do it, but when it comes to volume, only 4 out of the top 12 targeted guys are in the top 12 for the season
Really?
of PPR. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it is kind of crazy. And you think of like catches, right? Catches will get you in PPR. Only 7 of the top 12 guys with catches are on the list. And then touchdowns, right? It's got to be one of these 3, but it's really shown to be a combination because only 5 out of 9 guys with 3 receiving touchdowns are on this list. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of crazy, man.
As
And that
well.
just goes to speak to 32 different wideouts being top 12. definitely not settling in.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, there's an amount of potency going on. There's, several teams, obviously all four of those teams that had 2 weeks from the same guy have done
Mhm.
well. But we've got three teams that have had an appearance by multiple players, two or more. Anyway, Seattle has got Jackson Smith and Jigba's on there once. Tampa Bay, Mike Evans, obviously. Jameson Williams for Detroit. And then the Raiders somehow um, have had three different guys doing it. So
Wow.
it's pretty impressive. So some of these teams are just making it happen, but I don't know. I don't know. Wide receiver, what are you going to do? They need to settle down.
Well, it was kind of a slow start to the beginning of the year in terms of passing offenses, so it's good to see these guys starting to heat up. I mean, if you look at the top scores of this week, you got a 47, a 30, a 29, a 28, a 28, 26. Like now we're starting to really heat up and see the numbers that we want to see out of these receivers. So I'm excited to see it keep going.
Hell yeah, man.
But
Well, I think that's good for the top 12 moment. I think long awaited. I know I'm personally pumped to get into the running back longevity topic.
I am excited too. It's one of my favorites of the year. I love the running back position. All of you be damned. Zero RB. You suck. RBs are important. Um,
Absolutely.
I know I might lose that argument, but that's how I feel inside. So, looking at running, what is running back longevity for us? Very quickly, if you have not heard one of these episodes before, it is basically just I'm breaking down the ages of the guys that are in the top 24 for each year, the guys that fell out of the top 24 for each year, and trying to find a almost a time to get away from some of these running backs so you can get out early before you get out late. We will be going at some point we'll be going over injuries and total carries on career and see if any of that has anything to do with it. But right now we're just going to do like a general introduction for everybody into the running back longevity. So from 2022 to 2023, we had 12 different players fall out of the top 24, which was one of the highest that I've seen since we started doing this. And if you look at the names, some of them will make sense. Austin Eckler, injured. Josh Jacobs, injured. Nick Chubb, injured. Ramondre Stevenson, injured. Aaron Jones, injured. But then you got Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, who retired, but he was still kicking around technically in 2023. Jamal Williams, Miles Sanders, Jerick McKinnon, Ezekiel Elliott, and Devin Singletary all were in the top 24 in 2022 and fell out of the top 24 in 2023. Um, the average age of the guys that fell out, those guys I just listed, was 27 and a half. So right where that number has been the entire time I've been doing this, it's right around 27. It seems like every year. That is when running backs start to fall off. Obviously, not everybody. There are exceptions to prove the rule, but it seems like these exceptions are always like exceptional players, which I guess makes sense, but it's always like it's Derrick Henry's and Ezekiel Elliott for a while, and it's Christian McCaffrey. It's like all these guys that are superstars, Alvin Kamara, those type of guys. Whereas these kind of middle tier guys that have a few seasons and you want to use them pretty well, um, kind of tend to fall off a little quicker. Um, but before we get into the any more of that, I want to talk about the average age and the players that replaced those top 12 from 2022 into 23. So the average age of the top 24 fully in 2023 was 25, which is actually a little higher than it has been lately. It's usually in the 24s. 25 is not crazy, but that's still a little higher, still 2.5 years younger than the average age of the people that fell out. But listening to the names of the guys that replaced them, I feel like we are headed towards like we had a QB resurgence where like Aaron Rodgers is the only old head still kicking around. I feel like we're going through that in the running back position because the guys that replaced all these top 12 guys that fell out were Brees Hall, Rashad White, Raheem Mostert. That's a little outside of what I'm talking about. Kyron Williams, Bijan Robinson, Jameer Gibbs, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerome Ford, Devon Achan, Jalen Warren, Brian Robinson Jr., and James Cook. So most of those guys are all first or second year players. Like a few, obviously Mostert's an outlier, and then like Ford is a little bit of a different one. But most of those guys are like within their first 2 to 3 years. And so, and a lot of them, Brees Hall, Bijan, Gibbs, maybe Kyron Williams to a lesser extent, seem like they're going to be mainstays of the position, which is going to be an interesting kind of path to see going forward. I want to see how these guys, do we have our new Kamara? Do we have our new CMC? Do we have a new Zeke? These guys that you can rely on every single year to be in the top 12 or if not higher, and I'm excited about it. It was a fun list to make because we're really getting into like a lot of the our guys that we've been talking about for a couple years are really starting to take over. Um, so with that being said, I wanted to take a look at the 12 guys that fell out of the top 24 in 2023, and I wanted to see where they are now. Like, are they trending back upwards or are they actually falling off? Because some of these guys, like I said, the average age of them was 27, so a lot of these guys are right in that window where they should be falling off. So we'd look at the first names. We got Austin Eckler. He's a clear backup, kind of, to Brian Robinson Jr. I think he just hit the injury report as well. I don't think he's playing this week. And he's the RB 26, which isn't bad, but he is still outside that top 24. Um, Josh Jacobs, everybody was expecting a huge bounce back season from him going to the Green Bay Packers, and he's looked pretty good, but he's the RB 30 on the year. So it's not like he's been groundbreaking. I don't know if he has a touchdown. I should probably have that information. I don't know if you could look that up real quick for me, but I don't think he has a touchdown on the ground yet. He might have like a small one, but RB 30 on the year, that's not really getting it done for a guy that you want who just fell out. It's a little warning sign that like, oh, maybe he is going to have a bad year. Um, Ramondre Stevenson fell out in 2023 and he's back in 2024. He is the RB 23 right now. He did just have a really dud game where he got hurt as well. In that game, I believe, I don't know if it's long term, but I think that kind of messed him up in that game. But had a really strong week two and seems to be the guy in New England. Dalvin Cook disappeared on the Dallas depth chart. Nick Chubb is still on the PUP list. Aaron motherfucking Jones is the RB9 and looking fantastic in purple. Um, Criminally underrated. I will die on that hill. Leonard Fournette, I mentioned earlier, he retired, so he doesn't really count. Jamal Williams is a clear backup. Miles Sanders is a clear backup. Jerick McKinnon's done. Devin Singletary is the RB 17 on the year, which is kind of like right where I know me and you were pretty big on Singletary coming out of the draft. And that's kind of like right around where you would expect a starting running back to be, at least like fighting for those 20 spots. So it's good to see Devin Singletary getting some love. And then Zeke, even though he's getting a decent amount of work and he's back in Dallas, he is the RB 39. So of those 12 guys, three of them are back in the top 24 as of week three, 2024, which is not a great sign. And some of these guys aren't even close. Obviously, Eckler is, but most of these guys are fairly outside the top 24. So I just thought that was interesting. I'm going to take a quick break to let you get any thoughts that you might have out real fast.
Yeah.
And then I'll hit some more stats.
Yeah, Jacobs no touchdowns, so
Okay.
uh
Gotcha.
too bad. Yeah, I mean, really talking about what you were just saying, kind of gave me something to be curious about. 12 first timers last year, that's a big number to kick 12 dudes out. And just breaking it down, like you're saying, it really was young guys. So Mozart, obviously an exception,
Hmm.
but then it was three rookies. But the thing that blows me away is it was eight second year guys.
Hmm.
So eight second year guys coming in. Plus, then there was one that was a repeat for first year and second year. And I thought it was kind of crazy to have eight guys from the 2022 class in here.
Hmm.
The last time we saw something like this was 2017.
That
That
was
class
the
managed to put up seven guys
mm,
in the second year in the top 24, which was pretty impressive. And then 2015 had six. So we're looking at some pretty hot years. I
hmm
think we are all pretty familiar with these classes. You got like that big Kamara class in there with Dalvin Cook and Aaron Jones and Mixon
CMC.
and CMC, Austin Eckler, all these guys, pretty solid. And then the other class that came out was Melvin Gordon and David Johnson and Todd Gurley, those kind of guys. So there's some pretty big running back classes that we were all excited about for years to come. In
Hmm.
fact, of those classes, there were 11 running backs in the 2015 class
Mm.
that eventually hit 24 at some point, and then 14 in the 2017 class. So um, some potent years come through, and it looks like 2022 was a really big one. But something that you're alluding to a little bit about the ground game being back and like these guys being exciting is that there's a lot of talent in those couple of classes, but
Hmm.
that 2022 year was like the nobody's paying running back
Mm.
kind of class. And so everyone was going to youth and kind of just turning over some of those older classes as well. So it's kind of cool to see that sweet wave come through.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
it's a blast. No, the 2017 class, by the way, is just ungodly good.
I know
But
they're
yeah,
still doing it.
yeah, they're still just crushing it too. It's insane. But yeah, man, it's exciting. That 2022 class is potentially going to be really special.
Heck yeah.
Um, I'm excited about it. So, on that note, I want to look now at guys that were in the top 24 in 2023 who, as of right now, are not in the top 24 of running backs for 2024. So the first and most obvious name here is going to be Christian McCaffrey. Um, there should be a legal investigation into all the things that San Francisco was saying leading up to the season about how Christian McCaffrey was fine and that they were working him back and that he would be good to go. All that nonsense was nonsense because my boy is headed to Germany to see a specialist about his calf, which that means he's probably not playing for a while. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. That seems crazy to me. That I don't think it would be absurd to not see him until like past midseason, if at all. Like maybe I'm looking into that too much, but if you literally don't think that you can find a way to fix this issue in the United States of America, not even saying that we have the best doctors or anything, but like you for real have to fly all the way to Germany to figure out your calf, that's not good news to me. Maybe I'm leaning too hard into it, but that's pretty crazy to me. Raheem Mostert also been hurt all year, so he's not.
Mhm.
And he had a ridiculous season last year. So I feel like it would be hard to replicate that. Although, if he were to do that, Miami is the place that could pound him a few awesome weeks coming back. So Joe Mixon looked awesome week one, but then he's been hurt. He's potentially coming back week four. So like he's kind of an outlier where he isn't in the top 24, but he probably easily could be if he just wasn't hurt. Isaiah Pacheco just went out 6 to 8 weeks, I think is what it is. Jalen Warren is the RB 51, and he's been playing. He's not hurt, so that one just seems like he's kind of dead in the water. In the or has he been hurt? I think he's hurt now, right? Him
Yeah, I
and
think he's
Najee are in the
recently got
injury
hurt.
report, but like he hasn't been in the games. Same with DeAndre Swift, who I just traded for
What the
and
hell?
started looking at that a little harder. And maybe I don't necessarily love that I did that because he has been grossly inefficient. I needed running backs so bad, but he has not been great. So hopefully he can heat that up, the RB 41 on the year. And then Kenneth Walker the third also been hurt, the oblique injury. I think he had a great week one, or a good week one. And so I think given if he can come back, he'll be good. But yeah, those are your guys. So we already have two, three, what, seven guys who are already not in the top 24, and some of them are real far behind. CMC, Mostert, Jalen Warren,
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift, like they're not close. So it'll be interesting. I wonder where we're going to go this year in terms of how many falls out. So for a final note on the running back longevity, I want to look at some decent sized names at the running back position that are in what I call the running back danger zone. So these are going to be guys that are 27 years of age or older heading into this season. And how they're doing so far. So, already mentioned Devin Singletary, RB17. He's 27 years old. That's great. This is going to be the 27 club, by the way. So, these first few names I mentioned, they're all 27 years old. Um, David Montgomery is the RB9 on the year right now. He just will not go away, it seems like. Or unless I typed that in wrong. It literally seems wrong to me saying it now that he's the RB9. But he's that 1-2 punch with him and Gibbs is really, really tasty. Tony Pollard, RB21 on the year, so doing pretty well. Better than I expected, to be honest. Saquon Barkley is the RB1, and he's 27 years old. Philly is really using him. Okay, so David Montgomery's the RB10, so it was
Yeah.
wrong
Yeah.
actually. Okay, so I did notice that. And then yeah, Miles Sanders, he essentially is gone. Like he's one of those mid-tier-ish guys who had like one or two decent years, and now he's 27 and poof. I mean, he poofed last year, I suppose, but I mean,
Burnt
Chuba Hubbard
toast.
had 20 something points in fantasy this week, and Miles Sanders was nowhere to be seen. So
Well, that was the Andy Dalton bump.
the Andy Dalton Chuba bump, I love it. Um, so now we're getting to the guys that are 28 years old, and this is actually the more painful one than the 27. So we got CMC, I already talked about him heading to Germany. Nick Chubb, PUP list. Joe Mixon, he's the RB27 right now, but he's hurt, maybe back week 4, we're hoping. So the three guys that are 28 years old that are worth mentioning are all dealing with some kind of injury, which is not what you want to see.
Bavarian calf doctors.
Yeah, right. But then you get into the 29-year-olds, and holy shit, you got Aaron Jones at 29, RB9 on the year. James Conner is the RB18 on the year. Alvin Kamara is the RB2 on the year. So you got three guys from that are 29 years old still killing it, still looking good too.
Oh,
Um, that's the crazy part about it. But then you do have some names that are fairly disappointing in this 29 age range. You got Austin Eckler, already talked, RB 26. Jamal Williams is fairly non-existent in the Saints offense right now. Dalvin Cook, I haven't seen him play a snap for the Cowboys yet. Kareem Hunt just got activated from the practice squad, wasn't even on a team to start the year. So not really looking great for the back half of the 29-year-olds. And then we have one gentleman who is 30 years old, who is currently the RB7 on the year, and it's Derrick Henry
yeah,
with the
boy.
Baltimore Ravens. And that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, listen to the names that are still relevant that are older than 27, like 27 or older. You got basically Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, James Conner, Alvin Kamara, and Derrick Henry, like are the biggest names. You throw your Singletaries in there, your Montgomerys in there, but those five guys are like fantasy mainstays for the past 5 to 6 years. I mean, Nick Chubb, I don't know why I was mentioning him until he got hurt. He was a top tour for 24 RB every single year. Same with basically Aaron Jones outside of his first year, and then he missed it last year due to injury, but now he's right back in it. So these guys, Kamara, always in it. You know, like these kind of guys are just unquestioned. And so I think they get a little bit of a nudge in the right direction for just being a step above everybody else. But again, these like mid-tier guys, even like Kareem Hunt, Dalvin Cook, like these kind of guys, like dropped off like a hat. Like all of a sudden, Dalvin Cook didn't look good anymore. All of a sudden, Kareem
Mhm.
Hunt couldn't get a job anymore. Um, so we'll see where they go, but you got to get out of these RBs at some point, and you should do it earlier rather than later. And I still, based on this, that 27 RB danger zone, that's when you need to start looking at it. And do you think you have one of these difference making guys or one of these exceptions to the 27 rule? If you don't feel that way, maybe sell them.
Get out. Get out.
Get out while
Yeah.
you can.
I'm with you, man. Man, that's beautiful. I love to hear it. Um, I was gonna slide in just one little nugget.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about these guys that make it last, deep in their career, and they're every year kind of guys. I do want to shout out and kind of highlight four guys, excluding 2023 rookies, that have done top 24 every year of their career.
Mm,
And this kind of illustrates, how difficult it is to do this, but we'll count him up. Kenneth Walker, get back to us, man. You got
nice.
2 years running. Najee, you got 3 years. It's a miracle. Not sure how that happened. Swift, figured out in Chicago, man. You got 4 years running. Don't break a streak. And then Demont, 5 years going, and he's like, hey,
Mhm.
chalk me up for number six. So that's pretty incredible, just to give those guys some respect.
Yeah, and I was gonna mention it because they're like I kind of mentioned it with Aaron Jones and Chubb. Like there were a few mainstays of the running back room who finally lost basically their um streaks, because Aaron Jones obviously missed his rookie year, but he had 5 straight years of being in the top 24. Alvin Kamara's only missed 1 year in his career. It was 2021. Ezekiel Elliott had been going on an absolute tear up until 2023. He had 6 years running until 2023. And if he could have just squeezed in there at 20 in 2023, it would have been an incredible run for him. So yeah, I there it's interesting, but it kind of speaks to that new wave of guys too. Some of those names you mentioned, obviously they've been in 4 years, so it's a while. But yeah, man, it's an interesting time for the running back room.
We're gonna make it happen, man. So I'm glad to get back into that. I'm looking forward to the future. I've got little tickles of ideas to pick at, and as we go forward with that. So we'll see you in a few more weeks. But we're gonna try something
Yeah.
new-ish. I don't know if we've done this too much, but kind of want to talk about like defensive trends.
Hmm.
Especially we're looking at a season where there's not as much production offensively. So if we can kind of find those areas where it's happening, have a sure thing. I think we want to lean into that. I personally got burnt pretty hard between Ramondre and James Conner on some of these stout defenses that really can put a lid on pretty talented running backs. So
Hmm.
now I'm kind of keeping an eye out, looking for the weaknesses as well. And I don't know. It was easy for me to get into it when I was looking at top 12 wide receivers,
Uh-huh.
try to pick out some tendencies on that. And so I just picked up right with it, and looked at teams that were allowing top 12 wide receivers against them, defenses allowing it. And, two of them really jumped out to me. Washington and Los Angeles have allowed it all 3 weeks of the
Wow.
season. So yeah, they're just letting it happen. No big deal. And then they're joined by a few teams, the 49ers, Eagles, Jets, Raiders, Colts, Lions, Panthers, Ravens, and then the Patriots have two players that have done it.
Hmm.
But I will give a little bit of credit to New England. It was against Seattle, and they had two Seahawks do it to them, so they haven't allowed multiple weeks. There was just
Gotcha.
two in one game. But yeah, I'm looking at those. Let's see, 9 or 11 teams. I know that's a lot to keep track of in the moment, but I'm looking at those guys. They're obviously allowing big things to happen to them. So definitely spy in anybody I can play against them. Yeah, I don't know. The next topic I have is rushing related, and I think it might jump in with something you were mentioning. So I might just let you jump some defensive trends.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm gonna have to dig into your notes and really look at those 11 teams that you were talking about because that's pretty pretty interesting. But I wanted to stick with kind of the running back theme. So my defensive segment is run it down their throat, and it's talking about teams that just so far in the year have not been able to stop the run. And I'm gonna start with the Indianapolis Colts, who through 3 games have allowed 537 yards on the ground, which is 179 per game. 159 and a touchdown against Joe Mixon in week one, 151 yards to Josh Jacobs alone for the Packers. And then only 63 total yards against the Bears. Now, the Bears rushing offense is kind of weird. Swift didn't look great. I think he had like a yard and a half per carry, which is abysmal. And then Roshan Johnson came in and looked a little more spry. So we'll see how that goes. Um, the thing with the Colts so far, though, is that they've only allowed 1 touchdown on the ground.
Mm.
Which means like even though Josh Jacobs had 151 yards against them, he actually only ended that game with 13 points because he had a fumble lost. So Indy is like a team that's going to allow you to potentially run for a lot of yards, but may kind of keep you out of the end zone. And you can see that based on their kind of box scores. I mean, Houston put up what 27 on them in week one, but everybody else has been sub 20 after that. So they're keeping a lid on people. So they're a good matchup in terms of being able to run, but you may not get the touchdowns you're looking for when you're going up against Indianapolis, which kind of to the flip of that, I have less information, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have only allowed the eighth most yards, which is still not great, but they've allowed the second most touchdowns with 6 on the ground. And so I don't know, your daily fantasies or your anytime touchdown
Yeah.
parlays, maybe look at that Tampa Bay rushing defense because they seem to be allowing people into the end zone when they get close. But the main team I want to talk about because of just how absurdly absurd they are getting attacked on the ground is the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, who had a tremendous defense last season, are now just getting bullied on a weekly basis. They've allowed 557 yards through 3 games on the ground. That's 185 per game and 8 touchdowns, which has led the league in rushing touchdowns allowed. That's with a blowout of the Browns in week one where they only allowed 93 rushing yards on the ground. Now, they did allow a touchdown to Jerome Ford, so that helps the touchdown numbers, but that's just absurd to me. So against the Saints, they allowed 190 total yards with Alvin Kamara getting 115 and 3 touchdowns on his own. They allowed 274 yards on the ground against the Ravens, with Derrick Henry getting 151 and Lamar Jackson getting 87, and they combined for 3 touchdowns. Um, so I just want to say in that note, like, A, they're playing the Giants this week. Devin Singletary, daily fantasy pick. I bet he's not going to be that expensive. Potential to blow up here. But look at Dallas's upcoming schedule. You got Devin Singletary, like I just mentioned, Najee and Jalen Warren, who, okay, they're not maybe the most scary duo right now with the Arthur Smith offense, but that's still potential to, especially Najee, to run down their throat and kind of treat them like Derrick Henry did. You got Jameer Gibbs and Demont coming to town. You got CMC or Jordan Mason, depending on who plays after that. Bijan Robinson after that. Saquon Barkley after that. Joe Mixon after that. We are potentially about to see the Dallas Cowboys just get run the hell over for 7 weeks straight. And I think if you have these guys, I mean, most of those names you would not think about benching anyway, but my Lord, you might be able to count on some of these guys for some tremendous weeks. I'm really looking at that Bijan game. I'm hoping that that is a game where he puts everybody on the map. I don't know if it's in Dallas, but that would be awesome if he went back to Texas and just fucked on the Cowboys.
Good Lord, dude. You really want it to happen. I can feel that. I can feel it. Oh man, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. Um, you got me excited, man. It's too bad on the DFS Singletary is a Thursday night game, so that's missing
Uh,
most of your Sunday main
gotcha.
slates. But
Damn.
it's not too late to get an island game DFS in. It's well, it's too late if you're listening to this, but it's not too late for me, and I'm definitely getting in on that. Um, but man, yeah, you're right. I looked at a couple of things. And it really is my DFS research in print here, but I always look for teams that are allowing multiple rushing touchdowns. And you definitely highlighted Dallas. They're definitely doing it multiple times, and Tampa Bay as well. I will say on the Tampa Bay thing, I found this interesting. They gave up the Jaden Daniels 2 touchdowns, so that definitely counts against them. Um, big time. But then Bo Nix also had, his rushing touchdown. So of those six they've allowed, three of them have gone to the quarterback position.
That's fair.
So I don't know. I don't know if that's something, but it definitely exists. And then you got Miami. They've given up multiple touchdowns on the ground twice so far this year. So I'm looking at that as a big opportunity. That was James Cook, and then Zach Charbonnet did it as well. But other than that, they've only given up one to Etienne. So five total touchdowns on the ground. It's still a pretty big number for 3 weeks in. So I'm thinking, yeah, those three are easy weak defenses to look at in the run game. But I
Nice.
don't know. I enjoyed defensive trend conversation.
I know. I thought it was good too. Yeah, we'll have to keep hitting this each week. Maybe get into some tight end and some quarterback stuff.
Hell yeah. Well, shall we finish her off the old-fashioned way with the box score boomers?
Sounds appropriate to me.
I know it's I'm trying to I don't know. I wanted to do a callback to Braylon Allen. I've
Hmm.
been into that guy. I didn't watch him do too much workout in underwear, but I definitely watched his film. I definitely caught on to him because I was doing the boomers. So
Hmm.
this keeps me going on it. So I'm gonna do two guys this week, as I always do, and we're gonna start out in the running back room with Quinshawn Judkins.
Okay.
Have you heard about this guy?
Heard of him.
He's yeah, running back out of Ohio State. So we like the Buckeyes. Of course, they had a great week blowing out Marshall 49-14. So
Wow.
not exactly the strongest competition. But he did have 14 carries for 173 yards. So that's 12.4 per and two scores. So you gotta love that average. He's doing like this minimal usage, high efficiency kind of season because they do have other options um, at Ohio State. Go figure. But yeah, he's definitely getting some love from the PFF big board. He's at 16, so he's not a secret or anything. But I'm just trying to collect some of these names and these thoughts as early as possible. And so yeah, he's a junior, 6 foot 219. And in the Big Ten, I mean, putting up these kind of numbers is just going to be healthy. He is a transfer. He spent his first 2 years at Ole Miss, where he put up a combined 2,700 yards on the ground and 31 scores between those 2 years. And he did enough in the passing game at Ole Miss, 37 catches for 281 and three touchdowns to make me pretty excited about him as a total package type back. Love the size there, close to 220. So he's no secret, but I got to keep my eye on these guys. So number next is Trey Harris,
Hmm.
wide receiver. Yeah, this one might be a little sleeper-ish, halfway anyway. He is out of Old Miss, so he knows um, Judkins from back in the day. But wide receiver, Old Miss, they had a pretty good, solid victory over Georgia Southern, 52-13. But he spent that game with 11 catches, 225 yards, and two scores. So right around 20 per catch. The big board of PFF has him at 102, which is, it's on the radar, but it's not a big blip. He is a senior as well, so that's a little older, but he's 6'3", 210. And
Damn.
yeah, I don't know. He's over 600 yards through 4 games. So that's feeling pretty good. I do think it's been a soft schedule for Ole Miss and the competition's going to heat up. So we'll see how he goes down the stretch. One thing I will say is this is his 5th season. The first one wasn't very meaningful, but over the past 3, he doesn't have any seasons over 1,000 yards, so he's never had this kind of production before, and he's a little older. So you got to look out for these kind of guys. This past year's draft class had a bunch of like last year older guy wonders, and we haven't seen that pan out really well. Xavier Leggett is a big one comes to mind. We'll see how Keon Coleman does, but he's got 22 scores over the past 3 seasons, so he has been productive. He just hasn't been alpha like he's trending towards this season. So
Nice.
yeah, just someone to give a little info on.
No, I like it. Yeah, I need to be reminded of college during the NFL season. That's I get into the tape in the off season, but I don't really follow it as much. So I appreciate you keeping me up to date with who is booming in college football. So
Oh yeah.
excited to check these guys out. But that is it for our episode this week. So please, if you haven't already, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know how we're doing, all that good stuff, that nonsense. But until next week, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Hell yeah. Take care.
I took a lease out on your heart.